Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Guess this is week 5. I'm not sure if Wendy's joining us today. I didn't hear from her. I know Lynn is busy in Paris, I think, today. And she sent me a message saying that she was not going to be able to stay up.
I was going to say, it's probably the middle of the night there.
Yeah, I think it was like 7 or 8 hours difference, right?
And it's 2 a.m. here too.
Where are
I'm
you?
sorry.
It's 2 a.m. here. I'm in Greece.
Oh, wow. I saw the name. I said, okay. Where in Greece? Where in Greece are you?
Athens.
Oh, wow. I have a brother-in-law who's from Athens.
Oh,
His name
okay.
is Hercules.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. Yeah, he goes back and forth quite often. I think he was just there. He's quite a lovely man. And he's 85 years old, my brother-in-law. And he's still going and moving and doing and still running a business here in the US and traveling. And so it's all what you focus on, you believe that you can continue, then that's it. What you see is your reality, right? I mean, what we believe to be the case is the case in so many levels. So thank you for staying up late. Thank you. And Heather, where are you located?
I'm in North Carolina, the United States. So I'm in the East Coast. Yeah.
Okay. That's all good. So like I said, I don't know. I guess Wendy's not joining us tonight. I don't know if you've met Wendy, you've seen her on other episodes. She's a delight, a phenomenal teacher. She really helped me to move into this situation that I'm in now, this position of being able to channel the way I channel. And with no, I don't want to short Lynn out in any of this. She was running her sanctuary, and the different guests that she had come through there week after week, sometimes twice a week. Each one of them gave you a little bit more, another technique, another modality. And I do my best to stay out of rabbit holes. There's a lot of different things we can go down, and some of them are a lot of fun. But I learned early on to try and stay out of the rabbit holes. Just try and stay on the path that takes you to the station. And anytime you can get off the train and experiment and check out this or that. But I try not to go too deep into any one particular genre. Not that it's bad. It's all fun. Sometimes you want to. Sometimes you want to dive into the Akash. Sometimes you want to go into your past lives and learn about those things that you've forgotten about. And there's no wrong in any of this. What I've understood now is, as we move into these deeper and deeper into the age of Aquarius, karma will be no longer. It is not something that we're going to take with us round after round after round. And with that, it's most wise for us to try and drop that karma, drop those experiences that make us feel less than, so that we can, take the vacation of a lifetime. We don't even need to pack any bags. They tell us just come empty-handed, because everything you need will be there when you arrive. And we'll be greeted with quite the celebration. They celebrate that. They mention that over and over and over again to me. And celebration is always capitalized. When I receive these messages, they're very strong in what they make me capitalize. I know to capitalize certain things. So to me, those are the important words. You know what I'm saying? This morning, now I spoke a lot in the last couple of weeks about Saint Germain, because that's kind of where my journey really started, with an introduction to Saint Germain, and from there it went in all those different directions, and who he was in different lifetimes, different incarnations. The same with Jesus and Mary and Magdalene, and everybody's had different representations during different epochs of civilization. So Saint Germain is referred to in the founding of America as the professor. Okay, he was around then, and he was referred to by Ben Franklin and George Washington as the professor. And he came over with Ben on one of Ben Franklin's many trips across the ocean to try and get the French to help us go against the British, give us money to help fight the British, is what it came down to. And Saint Germain met Franklin in the court of the king and utilized him for his advice. And also he was able to convince the king to give us, the Americans, George Washington and them, money that it wasn't a lost cause, that we could do it. And like I said, he was referred to as the professor, and someone was able to, I guess, channel or write down. I don't believe it happened the day of that the Declaration of Independence was signed, but the message that was delivered to the Continental Congress, which inspired them to sign the Declaration of Independence 248 years ago, was Saint Germain. The professor made an impassioned speech to convince everyone, because he was actually there and helped write our declaration. Okay, Thomas Jefferson is given a phenomenal amount of credit. All of them are, but the crux of it, the cohesion where everyone came together, was based on what the professor had to say during the final negotiations. Of course, he didn't sign it. And then he went back to France, and Saint Germain was a very large force in the French Revolution shortly thereafter, the American Revolution. Okay, so he's got a lot of history to us. From that time forward, he's known as Samuel Clemens, or Tom Sawyer, the man who wrote Tom Sawyer. Okay? That's Saint Germain in that incarnation. I don't know of any other incarnations where they can say, oh, that's Saint Germain. Now, in this past 19th century, 20th century, I don't know. Excuse me, 19th would be when he was writing Tom Sawyer. But so this morning, my journey on this path is very interesting. That I started with Saint Germain, because again, it wasn't anything that I had picked. It was just, that's what was the class I sat down for, and I learned about the violet and transmutation and transmuting all of the things that don't serve us. So it served me well, because it really helped me to shed all of these layers, or peel back that onion and release all the things that didn't make me smile, all those experiences throughout my life. And you kind of forget about them, but when you go into a meditation and something pops in your head, and then you realize, oh wait, well, that's right, that didn't make me feel good, or that made me feel a little less than. So I learned to utilize and trust the power of transmutation, the violet consuming flame, to lighten the load, get rid of all those things. And shortly after I was on this journey, a year or two, and I would go to different groups, because I was addicted to going to weekly groups, meditations, seances, whatever I could get, light language, who was channeling Jesus, who was channeling Mary, whatever I could get. I just loved the energy of it. And shortly in that, Saint Germain started to appear more and more in my writings, and I didn't expect that. So I kind of stuck in that direction with him as one of the main providers of information. And then later on, things shifted and changed, and I expanded into, when Jesus showed up one day, I'm like, oh my God, I can't talk to Jesus. I'm not worthy of that. And I felt like really intimidated, like, you're going to talk to me, Rob? What are you talking about? And each time another energy came in, and I was like, wow, it's none of it I expected, none of it. But each time it gave me more confidence to then open the door a little more and see who else could come in. And it just became a huge cadre of beings. Galactic Federation, the little ones, little elfin people, the Keebler, that's what I see them as, those little people making cookies in a tree. But they're the little ones, and they showed up one day, and I heard laughter and giggles, and I'm like, who are you? And the little ones showed up. So you just never know who's gonna going to come in. But back to what I was saying about early on in my journey, utilizing power of violet to transmute and remove all of these things that did not serve me. Things I didn't talk about, but they were memories, my own personal memories, right? Breaking up with my first girlfriend or whatever it was, all those things that the shoulda, wouldas, and couldas, the regrets. And
Yeah.
shortly into my journey, I would go to these different groups and weekly things, and there would be more advanced people on this journey, the teachers of the classes, the guides that were there, the healers. And people kept saying to me, boy, you've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of work. I see you're really, and I didn't know what they meant. I had no idea. And I kept hearing this over and over again all the time. You've done a lot of work. And then I mentioned it to one of my mentors, my friend Norbert, Reverend Norbert Lacha, who was the one who introduced me to Saint Germain. And he said, well, what they're seeing is that you've lightened the load. You've done a lot of work. You've cleaned house. You've emptied out that warehouse, that storeroom. So, and that was able to help me to move along and to continue to expand. And the only thing needed in this whole journey is to take the time to meditate. Introspection, either way it's spelled. Sometimes they make me spell it introspection. Sometimes it's introspection. The computer doesn't like it when I put introspection. It always puts a red on it. But I said, well, that's the way they gave it to me, so that's the way it's going to go. And, they make up a lot of words sometimes as we go.
Mm.
So I just ignore the spell check and I keep going. Excuse me, sip of water. So this morning I said, okay, well, I know I can always call out to Saint Germain, even though there's so many other beings, but because it's Independence Day here in the United States, I said, it's time to revisit. And because he was such a powerful force in the founding of this country and the independence of so many other countries, breaking away from the old norms, the old ways of doing things. And before I got into this whole journey of spirituality, I'm a very big history buff. And I always was. And I worked for the township. I worked for the town of Oyster Bay in Long Island. Oyster Bay is where Theodore Roosevelt lived and has his home. And it's an old town. It was established in 1653. So these people that were there were part of the American Revolution, very much so. The museums that I'm responsible for go back to the 1600s. The British were holed up in some of these houses that we maintain now as museums. They took over the loyalists' houses, people who were friendly to the king, and quartered in their homes, and they had to take care of them. And we have several of them where I work. And about 19 years ago, I was very busy renovating these museums. I really enjoy history. I studied a lot of it in college when I would go to college, and just very much interested me. And then I ended up buying this home that I'm in now, completely accidentally. And then I found out shortly after I moved into it that the family that owned this house were part of the American Revolution as well. And it goes all the way back to the great-grandfather of the person who built this house in 1916 was the person who foiled the plot of Benedict Arnold. Mm. Benedict Arnold, right, was George Washington's adopted son, the general, right, who turned against us and was going to, give all the information over to the British. Well, this 18-year-old guy named John Paulding and two other guys captured Benedict Arnold, took his boots off, and found the plans to West Point. And then, the rest is history. And it was so interesting that I'm living in this house of descendants of this gentleman named John Paulding, who was one of the first people to receive what we call the Congressional Medal of Honor. He was the first, him and the other two guys that he was with, were the first people to receive what was called then the Medal of Valor, and the first federal pensions. The first three pensions of the United States were given to those three men who foiled that plot, because without that, we wouldn't be a country. And I thought it was really interesting that I'm in the house, living in the house of the family who captured the guy who was living in the house in Oyster Bay 2 harbors over until he decided to go and meet with Benedict Arnold. So I'm responsible for the museum that the one guy was in, and I'm living in the house that the other guy was in, that quarter. I mean, out of all the houses, homes, and places around the world, right? Why am I here now in this? And just many, many synchronicities that went on from there. And a lot of those, I don't know if you saw our first episode where Lynn talks about her history here in Huntington. And she, as a young woman, actually would work in a restoration house, an old house that showed you life in the, in colonial days. And now she realizes that she was part of that family 250 years ago. And that's why she was drawn to work in the Conklin house and take the tours and wear the little bib and the thing and give people all these explanations. So 6 degrees of separation, I guess. She's back here in this town. I'm here in this town, somehow involved with what goes on in the Oyster Bay. I'm involved with what's going on in Huntington. And the history goes on and on and on from there. And even Nathan Hale came into the picture back in 2019. Nathan Hale was the first American spy to be caught and hung by the British. He was caught right here in Huntington. And there's a little part of Huntington that's called Hale Site. And they call it Hale Site because that's when Nathan got captured, was brought back to New York City and killed. And he showed up to me on the 5th of July, 5 years ago. I didn't know anything about it, but he came in and gave me a message that blew my doors off. And I'll share that with you maybe after we'll get to this one. But let me start with today's message, and I'll leave the history out for a minute. I'm sorry, I don't need to be going into all this history. But does anybody have any questions or anything before I go? Because I'll just keep talking otherwise. No, we're good. All
We're
right.
good.
Okay, so this morning, I decided, like I said, because it's, 4th of July is tomorrow, I said, let me get a timely and current message. So I asked Saint Germain, do you have a message for this evening? And I heard, of course, I have a message for all times of the day. Greetings, dear brother, and thank you for the inquiry. Today is the eve of Independence Day, a day that needs no introduction. So many men, women, and children put their lives on the line to achieve freedom from oppression. Yes, it took some time to accomplish because the task was so great, but success was achieved. So many put their faith in Providence, the divine power, source, to help and assist in their emancipation from the rule of a monarch. Humanity had reached a tipping point, and the collective had made up its mind. So off to war they went, with the hopes and dreams of a better life with no controls. Well, now is no different, and so much of humanity is in shackles, believing there is no way out. But once again, that is not the case. Each and every one of you has the opportunity to rise up and out of the perceived bondage of life on earth and free yourself once and for all from the shackles of the mind, thus freeing the soul and expanding into something far more greater. Life is meant to be lived, and experiences are to be had. So continue to expect improvement with each passing moment and celebrate the victory of light that is before you now, one and all. For this is truly an Independence Day to cherish, as so much is to be revealed in short order. Every human has the ability to be free. So utilize the power of meditation to help and guide you through to your own peace of mind and relax into the knowing that all is right in the world, despite what you are constantly being told. Of course, there are people and places in turmoil, but that is not the bellwether to be used when determining what the overall conditions actually are. So it is vitally important to remember that the light has won and all the rest is nonsense. This does not negate the power of free will, but it does make it easier for humanity to rise up as a whole and choose better. So choose wisely and celebrate immensely as we delight in the success of the mission. Humanity has beaten the odds and is well on its way to a new and more loving experience where harmony and compassion are at the forefront for all who choose to have the human experience. It is with great delight that I say congratulations, because as a collective of souls from all corners of the planet, humanity has come together and created what is your United States, which is simply another way of saying united souls. So continue to promote peace and harmony. Assist those who you can, and expect that not all is what it seems. And celebrate the victory of light that is upon you. God bless you and thank you. So,
Thank you.
hey, Matika, welcome. Thank you. So, like I said, Saint Germain was there helping us to create a new country, helping France to have their revolution, helping Australia down the road to break free of the crown, and on it went, and has gone for a couple of 100 years now, 240 years. But it's interesting, that in his message tonight, there was no good or bad. There was no there on this, there's no two camps. We're all one in this, one in all. It's up to us to choose better, to choose that victory of light. If we focus on the shit, we get the shit. I mean, that's all there is to it. What you fear, you bring near, right? That's the term that was I heard during COVID. Boy, did that really made sense to people when I said that, and then they snapped out of it, It's just, it's amazing how they're always there for us at any moment of the day or night. Like it starts off with, of course I have a message for all times of the day. I asked for this evening, but there is no night and day on the other side of the veil, right? There is no time on the other side of the veil. It's just the experience. I don't know. I can't fathom it. I'm still here in the 3D with the rest of you, right? I mean, I guess when we're asleep and we're astral traveling, maybe we can appreciate that lack of time. But, while I'm awake, it's still time. It's still a clock ticking.
True.
How are you doing tonight, Linda?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Wonderful.
Sorry I
Wonderful.
was late.
Don't apologize. Everything is always perfect. That's what they say. It's all perfection. When you get here, you get here. Right?
Yep.
That's part of this living in the now thing, dropping the judgment. Sorry, you don't have to be sorry about anything. It is what it is. I'm here. We're here, and it's easy, right now. Yeah, I'm in a good place. I'm not stressed out. It's easy. I had plenty of time to relax and prepare for tonight's gathering. But I guess if I was running around rushed, or there was a lot going on, or the dogs were barking, or the kids were screaming in the background, it would be a different story. But for me tonight, living in the now, it's good. There's nobody around. It's quiet. And I haven't been to work since last week. I took the week off. So it's been nice to be on vacation. You know what I'm saying? Been working outside, but it's all good. When you're by yourself and you're out there, it doesn't seem like work. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about specifically tonight? Touch on anything?
I'm actually interested in sharing. You were talking about time.
Yeah.
Several years ago, it was 2018. I don't know how else to describe it, and I've never met anyone who experienced this, but for me, and I live in time now, I'm back in time, time fell off. And I really felt like I was just living in the present moment. I didn't have memories, but if there was something I needed to access, the information was downloaded to me. And it was a really beautiful experience. And that lasted, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months.
Wow.
But yeah, like I say, I'm back in time now. But
what was the impetus for that shift? What happened? Did
good
you
question.
participate in something? What was the...
So for several years, I was meditating 6 to 8 hours a day just because I was living with my parents. I couldn't get a job. I didn't know what else to do. And I did a lot of yoga. So I was definitely aligning. And then I call really, really sick. It wasn't sick. I just had like these rashes all over my body, and there was no cure because it was spiritual. And so it was right around that time, but like I say, time fell off. I just
Right,
know this
right.
happened in 2018, and it lasted from June to about December. It was terrible. I mean, it was like the worst experience, but I learned the most that I've ever learned from anything out of that experience. But yeah, it was like a glimpse into the future, or a glimpse into like 4D or 5D reality where I wasn't living in time. And I think the strangest part of it was, though, not having memories. Like, people would talk to me about things, experiences that we had had together, and I would just look at them like, I don't remember that. And then of course, like I said, if I needed information, I could just like channel anything. It would just come through me. I would just
Okay.
know things. And I'm like, I don't know how I know that, but I know it, you know? So that was really interesting for me. So it's like, I kind of want to get back there, but I know also that I need to just be wherever I'm at and allow it.
Was there any type of walk-in experience at that time, do you feel?
I
I kind of
that's
feel
a
like
good
there was a
question.
little shift of energy at the time,
Um,
hence the lack of memory, like a trade-off was going on for a little while there.
I think that from the time where I was 12 to 25, that there was somebody else living in my body. When I was 12, I was in a pretty bad car accident, and like they had thought I was dead, but I wasn't, or came back. And then when I was 25, and this may be controversial, but it was like the best decision I ever made. When I was 25, I had an abortion, and that was my big spiritual awakening, because I was raised in a Christian family where you absolutely do not have an abortion, you go straight to hell. And that's when I actually met God. And I'm sitting here saying, God, what do I do? And God's like, get an abortion. And it was scary, and it changed my life, and it really opened me up to things. And so I think that when I had that abortion, it was the soul that was in my body since I was 12 leaving. And then like I came back. And even looking at pictures of me as a kid and pictures of me post 25, I look the same. But the 12 to 25 era, I look different. So I think that that's when that happened. And like I said, that's when my spiritual awakening happened. That's when I started yoga. That's when I started meditation. So I just think that, yeah, that's what happened there.
Tremendous. That's tremendous. And I appreciate your candid and your honesty in saying, most people run away. Look, I grew up in a very Catholic house. I'm
Mhm.
one of 10 children. I'm number 8 of 10.
Wow.
My mother had 10 of us in 12 years. Okay. So we did, things like that were not even discussed,
Right.
at the table. And I have 6 older sisters. So, and everybody has life. I mean, life is there. We've all had these experiences. When I started on this journey back in 2015 or so, one of the first things I asked was, what book should I read? And the same gentleman who introduced me, Reverend Norbert, introduced me to Saint Germain, introduced me to a book called Journey of Souls. There was a book called Journey of Souls and a book called Destiny of Souls. And they were written by a guy named Dr. Michael Newton. And Dr. Newton was a hypnotherapist. And he wasn't spiritual in any way. But he started in his practice doing sessions with people who had NDEs. And when they had these near-death experiences, he would ask a certain set of questions. Let's say he had 20 questions. And he would ask the same questions to one person, and then the next one. But he started to see a pattern when they all talked about their experience, how they died, but they knew that they were above their body. They were, they were at the gates. They saw Jesus. They saw Mary. They saw St. Peter. They saw their grandmother. They all talked about having these near-death experiences, and they all said the same thing. They were all told, it's not your time. You have to go back. And each one of these cases was a few pages long, and you could read one case at a time. It wasn't, very long chapters. And you saw the change in this doctor, who was very skeptical of all of this stuff. But he started to understand the timelessness of the soul and how the soul comes and goes. And I don't know if it was in the first book or by the time he got to the second book, but you knew he was sold on this. He was hooked into this. And that 20 questions became 25 questions and 30 questions and 35. And he was always asking that same group. And then it would expand and expand because he was getting more and more of the answers. He learned how to pick through the the weeds and get to the answers. And he talked a lot extensively about the souls of children that are aborted. And it totally put me at ease, and it changed my entire perspective on what I was raised to believe, as a Roman Catholic. And now in seeing this, or reading this and understanding the truth of it, that souls are here to teach lessons. And sometimes they're only here for a few months, 6 months, maybe 9 months. Sometimes they're only here for afterbirth for a year or 2 years. And a lot of time that soul is there to teach the lesson to the family, the parent, right? I mean, we all know that those contracts expand. So in talking about your experience, it makes sense now that I can look at it from a different perspective, that soul, that child, whatever, that energy was there to help you along, to move you to the next phase of your expansion, your awakening, right?
Mhm.
And you
Yeah,
said for
thank
6
you.
months.
I'm doing laundry, so I had to mute
No,
myself.
it's fine.
I
It's
feel like
fine.
it's loud, but
We all got
I-
things to do.
I wrote down The Journey of Souls, but what was the other book I'm interested
Destiny
in?
of Souls.
Okay, thank you.
And I actually bought copies and started handing them to people.
Okay, cool.
I'm one of those people. I get a good book, and then
Mhm.
people get sick of me. And I'm like, hey, have this book, have the medical medium, have this, have that. Like,
I've studied a little bit of hypnotherapy too, and that's not a name that I recognize, but I'm interested.
yeah, I think he passed away around 2016. But
Okay.
there's a lot of books on Dr. Michael Newton, and it was so simple and so basic. And it talked all about, in the second book, it started to ask more about, well, how did souls get created? He started to go deeper and deeper into where does the soul emerge from? And it was very, very interesting. And I guess it's a rabbit hole in itself, but it was kind of like there was nowhere else to go. Once I got that experience and understood about the souls, then that was enough to help me on my journey and understand your experience and everyone else's experience from a different perspective than the one I was raised with.
Yeah, I mean, same way, like I said, I was raised in a Christian family, but like my dad is a pastor. My first year of college was at a Christian school, and I'm like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And actually, even as a child, I was one of those people that would picket outside of the abortion clinics.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, I thought it was wrong. And then thankfully at the time I had a friend, a roommate who had shared her story with me. And she was the kindest, sweetest, most loving person ever. And I'm like, she's not going to hell. And that's when I realized like hell's not even real. If God is real, and I definitely believe in God, and I guess we all have our own version of God, and God represents love, hell can't exist. Like it can't. An all loving God, I would not send someone to hell. So why would God, who is more loving than me, send someone to hell? That's just my point of view. That's how that was my thought process. I'm like, there's no way, this feels right. I feel like this is the right decision. So
Appreciate
it. So thank you.
And what that book did, and I was so glad in the beginning to start off with that understanding of souls, because when you start in spirituality and you're talking to souls, you kind of want to know where they're coming from. And it's scary. For me, I was very like, what am I doing? Is this wrong? I mean, you're brought up that this is evil. You don't do that stuff. You don't delve into that stuff. But it just felt so natural. It felt so right. Like I've said, I use that term love wash that I got from someone else. But when you feel that love come over you, they're there. This morning when I sat over there, that's where I do my writing on that side. I keep my computer on this side of the room. But all my meditating, I do all of there where there's no electronics. And right away, I felt it. I was like, I set the intention. I wanted to talk to Saint Germain. And before I even put the wheels in motion, I was like, I needed tear. I started to cry. And I was looking around. There was no tissues. I had no tissues. So I brought up 2 boxes. Tomorrow morning, I'm prepared. I got a box of tissues over there and a box of tissues over here. So I didn't want to have to go back downstairs, 5 o'clock in the morning and look for tissues. But that's it. And once you feel that, it's like, okay, it's off to the races. And then anything you want to talk about, they're there to talk about. You want to talk about the weather, they'll talk about the weather. It just doesn't matter. That's what our higher self is there for. And they all say that, We're there to guide you, but you have to ask. You have to ask, you have to ask, you have to ask, and not allowed to talk unless we give them permission, right? It's the hands off, it's the free will. What do you think, Natika? Let's see, you got some questions. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, yes. Thank you for sharing. Yes, absolutely. This day is when I think of Saint Germain, I cry. I can't explain why it comes. Holy brother working nonstop to free humanity. Absolutely, absolutely. As I've said, and I don't want this to become the Saint Germain channel. You know, Lynn channels Metatron and Hathor and Jesus and, you know, her 25, 30 different energies. But it just seems that each week I keep being pushed in this direction. I don't know. Hopefully next week will be somebody else. I don't want it to be the, you know, the Violet Flame channel over here. That's already belongs somewhere else. Sorry, Lynn, if you're watching right now. Don't need to overdo it. What I do want to find is this message from Nathan Hale, because it's like I said, it's 5 years ago, and I've immersed myself in all this history. I think it would be Journal 1. Bear with me while I look for it.
Okay.
I can get this to minimize. Okay, Journal 1. Now, I was preparing for a 4th of July party in 2019. And I got up early. And there's a big rock right in the harbor here in Huntington where I live. And it has a big plaque on it dedicated to Nathan Hale, the first spy of Washington's, you know, spy ring to die for the cause. And I never really thought much about Nathan Hale in my history. Oh, excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. In my history, you know, I just knew that they captured him and that was it. And I didn't know anything more about it. You know, there was not much detail. They never got his body back. You know, there's no cemetery plot with him in it. Okay, let me just find this one right real quick. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So, like I said, I'd read a little bit about him. There wasn't much. And it was about 6:30 in the morning, and I was getting prepared for 4th of July. So I went to a gas station right around the corner, right past the Hale site rock, where there's this stone, you know, in his honor. And I had immersed myself in all this different history of my house and my job and the revolution and on it went. So I very much into that. And I got into the gas station and I was checking my lottery tickets, you know, I'm putting them on the scanner and I'm checking my tickets. And the guy's saying, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm a winner. I'm a winner." I'm affirmations, right? I'm hoping to hit big. I'm a winner. I'm a winner. And as I'm checking the tickets and the guy's double checking them, all of a sudden, out of my mouth comes the words, "Nathan Hale lives again." And I looked, there was nobody else in there but me and the gas station guy, you know. And he looked at me, the Turkish guy, and he said, "Excuse me?" And I said, "Nah, forget it. You wouldn't understand." I couldn't even understand why I said that. I had no idea why I said that. I was getting prepared for a big Independence Day party, and this just came out. So then I went, you know, had my party and the family and the whole bit. It was a great, great time. And at this point, I really wasn't sharing these messages with anybody because I thought people would think I was crazy. And all of a sudden, I'm receiving all these channel messages. But the next morning, I did my meditation, and this is what I heard. I said, "When I set sail, you were there. I left for the mission with no conditions. You learn of my history as if you don't recall. The day had come. I made the call. Off I went to my demise. With one last breath, I closed my eyes. It was not quick like some surmise. They broke my bones to my surprise. The sacrifice made to help the cause, to stop the king and his painful laws. To do again would surely be the thing I'd want to see. It was the end for me that day. And now I am back to say it's okay. We won the war for which I pledged allegiance to a country new. The work's not done, I say to thee. A brother of mine you surely be. Independence won, sacrifices made, and a new world was cast from that declaration, one that endures to this day. Continue the work we pledged to do. Now you know I'm with you. So take some time to look within. That's where you'll find my happy grin. So when you do, you'll know it's true. I pledged allegiance to the red, white, and blue. Thank you, Rob. You are my friend. I look forward to the day we meet again. Sail on. Namaste, Nathan Hale. So, needless to say, when that message came in, I was blown away. Really, really blown away. Yeah, I might as well have been George Washington, coming to talk. I just, like, holy crap. How did this guy, what? It just goes to the point that we go around and around and around, and we, for the most part, land back in the places that we've had incarnations in the past to finish the work that we've done, or we started, or that soul group, or that soul family. So I guess I'm part of the American Revolution in a previous life. I mean, and I'm not limiting it to me. I mean, who knows? I don't know what your Akasha said, but trust it, whatever it tells you. So then when Lynn started to do the Akasha and taught me how to do it, and we started to research it, and I found out that, yes, I was here 200 plus years ago. I was part of it. It is no coincidence that I live in this house, that I work in that for that museum and the other museums that are in that town. And I work in this township that's one of the original townships in the first 13 colonies. You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun. So when I want to endeavor and go in that direction and ask about history, I can do that. And there will be a whole book, because there's other messages, different characters of that time period. And someday I'll be able to, put that all together, and it'll really be a nice book. I'm going to put a lot of pictures in that one because of all the historical sites.
Can I share a little smaller story?
Please.
So I have two young nieces and their sisters. They're about to have birthdays. So they're about to be 6 and 9. And they go to Christian school. And they spent the night with me over the weekend. The 9-year-old, she goes, they don't believe me at school, but I know that you live a life and then you come back and you get to live more lives. And like, obviously they know that I'm the auntie you can talk to about that kind of stuff. And we sat here and talked about the lives that they remember. And I thought it was great because, I didn't implant that. Nobody implanted that. And like she said, the people at their school don't believe them. Probably I'm the only person in their family who does. And I'm like, yeah, you can talk to me about that. You can tell me about your past lives.
But that's what it is. We were all trained out of that early on, that imaginary friend, that person behind the refrigerator, whatever it was, For me, when I look back at my earlier years, when I was going through that phase of my life as a little kid, when I was seeing things at night, I didn't sleep, I wanted to go to my parents' bed. I was sure there was somebody in that hallway. I was sure there was an energy. And it took a long time. I remember growing out of it, and letting that go. But I believe that also suppressed a lot, because once I started on this journey, I kind of, again, peeled back that onion, and there were experiences then and things in my life that occurred that I didn't really remember until I started to peel back the onion. And then I was able to make sense of what I was experiencing, know that I wasn't crazy. I know who it was now that was there. I know the reasons why, because they came to me and told me. It's from spirit, you know what I'm saying? And it had to do with my grandfather, who passed away when I was a little boy. And when I was 3 years old, he passed, and I was very, very close with him. I was namesake. And I found out that he was coming to visit me at night. And it scared me. I didn't know who it was. And I was very, very fearful for many, many months. And then I always felt that my grandfather was not around, that particular grandfather. I never had any experiences. I never felt like he was with me growing up. And not until I was on this journey and this path that I reconnected with him. And he said, I've always kept a distance because I didn't want to scare you like I did when you were little. And he was the one who was coming to me. But because I was so afraid then, he backed off. So he was always there. I wish I had recognized it, 55 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But now I know, and now I know he's here and I can talk to him. But it was interesting how he backed off then. And it took me quite a few years of this spiritual stuff and meditating and, transmuting things to uncover that. But at least I did it. Otherwise, I'd be like, wow, I'd still be walking around saying, well, my grandfather never came back again, But it's not the case. Now I know it's not the case.
I guess I want to talk a lot tonight.
So please go ahead.
I have another little story about imaginary friends.
Uh-huh.
So I live inland a little bit. It's like a 3-hour drive to the coast. And my entire life, I will tell you that my soul is in the ocean. And so I've always been like a beach person. When I was a kid in like daycare and it was nap time, I hated it. I hated taking naps. So I remember I would lay there, and I guess I don't know if it's astral projection or whatever it's called. I would pretend I was asleep as a kid, and my soul would get up and go to the beach, and I would play. So then later on as an adult, I moved to like this place I never visited as a child, but it was at the beach, and I made friends with someone. Her name was Danielle, and we were just best friends immediately, soul family. We were like sisters. And I had this revelation come to me one day, and I was like, I think I used to play with you when I was a kid. And her eyes just started welling up, and she was crying, and she was like, you were my imaginary friend. So like, I feel like my spirit was going to the beach and like playing with her when we were kids. And I don't know, I just thought that was sweet when you said imaginary friend. Like we were just living the same life and just experiencing different realities.
When you have that experience, that person you felt like you've known all your life, I mean, we've all had that. You meet somebody and you feel like you've known them your whole life. Somebody referred to it as a bromance. When I met this guy, another contractor, we were working, and he was restoring one of the museums. And I'm like, older guy than me, coming from a family of 12 children. So I felt, okay, we have similar, roots, so to speak, similar upbringing. But it clearly was more than that. And now I know that I knew this person from a previous life. There's no doubt about it. I've never had the discussion with him because he subsequently moved to Florida, and I don't know if he knows where I'm at. I don't see him on the Facebook. So, but yeah, absolutely, I believe in that. I have 6 grandchildren, and I have 3 little ones who live next door, and the 5 and the 7-year-old. They come to me and they share their experiences, their dreams, their thoughts of things. And I only encourage it. I don't, build upon it. I just leave it. Yes, you did have it. My one little one, she's certain she was a nurse in a past life. She's certain she did this. Yes, I just concur and go from there. And at least I'm not limiting her and saying, oh, you're crazy and that's not true. And causing stuff that'll have to be fixed later. We learn all these things that we were told as children. Boy, that really does stick with us sometimes, and then it's got to all be transmuted and extracted, and you got to sweat it out in a lodge for 12 hours, some yoga, it's all these different techniques. But for me, the power of transmutation and that is just the easiest way to clean up all this stuff. And that's why I keep talking about it week after week. Even when I don't want to, it's how it is. What do you think, Matiku?
Thank you for the share. And Robert, thank you so much. And Heather, thank you for the share. Linda, thank you for the practice you did for me. Linda has done a good work on healing, on exercise with me on the weekend. And she's sending me a picture of Baba G, Jesus Christ, and Yogananda all together. I'm so grateful, Linda. Thank you. And I want to give a share on my awakening experience so that general public could see it from the perspective how I see it. So as a medical doctor, I was practicing and awakening was coming, my thoughts, I start to observe them. And then they become insane, has no truth. And then I say, holy, this thought been running me for whole life. And I thought they were real, but they are not real. Then I give an algorithm a name, I call it iOS, Insane Operating System of the Ego Mind. Then the iOS, then I say every thought comes, is this the iOS or the TOS? TOS is Truth Operating System of the Universe. Now, my son was 5 years old. I teach him about this. So when I get angry, he says, Dad, the iOS is acting up.
Very good.
Start to understand it easy. So there are two thought systems. The iOS is insane operating system coming from the body consciousness or the ego mind, or the TOS, which is truth operating system of the I am, or the love and peace. So this will be easy for everyone. If a thought comes, see it. Is it real or is illusion? If it's illusion, it's iOS. Now, one day my son looked at me and he says, Dad, you know, you don't have looking energy. He was 5 years old. He said, looking energy. I say, okay, what do you mean? Okay, come look at me. What he's saying is, when a kid look at a person, when you are talking to him or listening to him, he can perceive your awareness if it is in the present moment or it's somewhere else, in the past or in the future. We call it the I am presence. He call it looking energy. He say, you see, Daddy, I'm not here. He can sense it. If I am looking at him and my focus or awareness is with him or is somewhere else.
Yes.
Call it looking energy. So this will give for everyone to apply looking energy wherever you are actively present in a moment. Apply the TOS, not the iOS, which is the default mode we operate the whole human consciousness. Then it will give you an awareness into the awakening, which is an excellent algorithm. I just want to share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love the operating system analogy. I've been using that for quite some time. You know, when we talk about like 11:11 or Lionsgate 8:11 or solstice energies, right? Those are all very powerful energy days. Some of them we hear the words upgrades, right? We get upgrades to our operating system, right? Our apps, right? We have our app on our phone, and every couple of weeks, oh, you got to update, you got to update. Sometimes we get complete operating system expansions or upgrades, and those are like on those bigger days, like I said, like 8:11 or 11:11. And I started to utilize that in my explanation when I would tell people, like, think of the brain as a computer, right? And right now it's, you know, when you first start in this journey of awakening, you're running Windows 98 if you're lucky, right? And then you upgrade to Windows 2000, and then you're going to get like 2003, and little by little you're upgrading and upgrading your operating system. And as your operating system expands, right, then you're able to get these little downloads, these different events, these solar flares, right? We're told that these solar flares are blasts of information, downloads of information. In the beginning, I was told that when you got a ringing in one ear, in your right ear, it meant you were receiving. When you got it in your left ear, they're ringing, you were sending, like an old fax machine. And they told me that that's all that is. When you hear that ringing in one ear or the other, it's like a fax machine, receiving information and sending information. So that the brain is doing all this stuff that we don't even know about, you know, because our consciousness is so limited within the waking mind. But those operating systems, absolutely. And we have so many of them that we want to, is it the fear, the operating system of fear? And do we want to take the stuff that we see and hear all day and let that become how we run our day? And you know what that brings us, dis-ease and discomfort and you know, or do we want to use the I am operating system, which is living in the now, knowing that there's more to it, expecting only the good stuff, right? or the other, what was the other operating system? The
In-
iOS, you said?
iOS is all the illusion, insane operating.
It's- Exactly.
The other is the TOS, truth operating system of the universe. So when a person transform in a day, there are the 40 I use. Total truth transformation when today.
That's right.
You are living today. So apply the 40, transform to who you are. You are the I am, which is eternal.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. That is wonderful. Anybody else have anything they want to share with us tonight? By TOS.
I have a question.
Please, please.
So you mentioned, Rob, that when in meditation, if we want to ask a question for guidance, any feedback on what type of a question would be a best question to ask?
There is no best question. Just the fact that you pose the question in your mind is
Mhm.
enough for them to answer it. So
Okay.
in the beginning, I recommend to everyone, if you have questions, write them down. Write them down on a piece of paper, leave it on your night table, leave a pen or a pencil, something you can write with, because in the beginning, I would get woken up in the middle of the night with information, and it would just be bits and pieces, and I just write it down and then go back to sleep. And then
Mhm.
later on, I could expand on it. Yeah, so inquiry is the switch and silence is the key. It can be silence and meditation. It can be silence and sleep. Set the intention before you go to bed. If you have to, write the questions down. And another caveat, in our operating system that we all run, our dreams are designed not to be remembered when we wake up.
Mhm.
The operating system, those dreams are to fade, right? It's just a natural occurrence, unless it's a premonition or, you know what I'm saying, a revelation of sorts. They're going to fade as the day goes on. So you have to hit the Alt key on your, how you can hit the Alt key on your computer and override a program. So by hitting the Alt key, you can say, I want to remember my dreams when I wake up. So before you go to bed at night, you set the intention to have these questions answered, and then say, I want to remember these when I wake up. I want to remember my dreams when I wake up. Whatever the information is, I want to remember it. Do that for 3 days. Within those 3 days, you will start to have more complete memories of your dreams and your experiences while the body's at rest. Okay, you can override the software anytime you want. It's
Okay.
all part of it. Okay,
Yeah.
try
Thank
it.
you.
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised.
I
And you
put,
can do test questions. You can ask test questions just to see.
I put
Yeah.
a formula on love. This comes for a long time, over and over. First, I doubt it, but it's consistent. So love is like the first L is life, O is omnipresent or omniscient, V is vital, vibrational, eternal energy. That is the only thing that we take forever, love experience on this lifetime. And the formula is, when you use limits, R approach to 0, 1 divided to R equals infinity. So 1 divided to 0 is infinity, which is the number, it go higher and higher. R is the resistance or illusion or fear or separation. As we approach R to 0 in every moment by moment, we are expanding our love, eternal energy. Just want to share that one.
Thank you. Thank you for all that. So, Linda, you good? Anything? Okay. Heather, thank you so much for sharing with us. I love it. I promise to have more sharing time as we go on, but
Yeah, I talked a lot tonight, but I guess I needed to, so thank you
No,
for that.
it's all perfection.
Thank you. It was amazing.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm sorry it's the middle of the night for you there, but I'm sure you make some Greek coffee and you'll be all right. You'll be the first one up. Chica, thank you very much. And Lynn will be back next week, and we'll just keep going. We're going to keep going with this. I really enjoy it. I hope you do. I hope you all do as well.
We do too. Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
See you
stopping
next
in.
week.
Yes, fantastic.
Bye.
So long, everyone.
Bye.
Love you.